Well, I saw a thing that said that 40% of Facebook posts right now are AI.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we talking about?
So what are we? We're already there, though.
Yeah.
You think about it, we're already there. So I'm feeling in 5 years, I think max it's going to be gone.
Yeah, I mean, like now I write with the AI right there. I don't like use the AI to write it, but I'm like the other day I had to write a little bit about like the history of Houston rap. I just tell ChatGPT like, hey, tell me about the different eras of Houston rap. And it just completely summarizes it. I don't have to look up anything. And then I just kind of plug and play like all the details,
I tell everyone, if you're not on it, you're losing.
Yeah.
You're going to get left behind.
If anything, I read about the things that these young college students are doing with it and using it for, and how much like time they're saving, and people saying like, oh yeah, I get so much sleep now because I don't have to spend all these hours reading and writing, etc. And I'm like, on one hand,
you have kids?
Kind of scary. Yeah, 4.5-year-old.
Okay. They said by the time your kid is an adult, more than likely they'll marry a robot. Marry.
Okay, that's terrifying. Yeah.
But you say that, and then people say that, and they say, someone said, no one's gonna be with a fucking robot. I said, hey, boy, blow up dolls. What are you fucking talking about? Imagine a robot that feels, looks real, and could talk, and does everything you want. Yeah, you're gonna be like, that's my bitch. Like, you might have a real person with you, but if that bitch acts up, bye. And and I'm set. And they said, like, kids, I got grandkids.
We're already filming, right? Yeah, sorry. Be nice. I like to do the smooth transition.
They do that. Yeah, they catch the organic.
That's
organic.
Good,
no, he's gonna do it. They chop it all up.
Not AI.
This is real, baby.
But what I was thinking about is, imagine sitting there with your kid going over how to do a math problem.
Forget it.
When I was a kid, it already seemed kind of silly because it was like, this is the same thing that the fucking calculator does, right?
Yes.
But now, like, literally, your kid could go, boom, take a photo of it,
and it's done.
Give you the answer.
We're in a new world.
At a certain point,
we will be in a new world very soon.
But at a certain point, do you stop even trying to convince kids or show kids how to like do the grunt work of doing a math problem? Is that even necessary?
Adam, this is the real challenge that we're facing as a society. Like, which way do we go? Because they're going to have to find new things to motivate them and move them forward and to advance culture and civilization, or else we're fucked.
Yeah.
We'll be iRobot.
There's a band on Spotify that's getting millions of streams per month that's all AI, and that's kind of a worrisome thing. Okay, you know what genre of music I heard has been like totally cannibalized by AI is like chill, lo-fi hip-hop type stuff. So it's just these like smooth, chill beats that people like as like background music type stuff, and AI is just better at making that stuff than the people who've been making it for years.
Music, I have a distribution company called Adventure Music. I got thousands of artists on there. I teach them how to own, operate, and monetize. And I remember when AI first hit, I was telling all my artists, why wouldn't you do a record with your favorite artist? You just said you came from Toronto, AI Drake.
Yeah.
There's AI Drake that has hundreds of millions of hits. Why wouldn't you create an AI Drake collaboration song? Like, that's the question. And when they catch it and pull it down, then you got to deal with it. But in this game of independent artists, it's really the wild, wild west. Meaning catching comes before hanging, as my man says, right? You got to get caught before they can hang you.
But I feel like we're still in the early days AI-wise, to the point where like, okay, if you do a fake Drake collab AI song, I mean, the societal ramifications of you looking like a cornball are going to be pretty intense right now. But who knows what happens to that? Maybe we just get so used to AI that me getting a Tupac verse is not that out of the ordinary, because Drake did that.
So let me ask you a question, because if that's the case, is negative publicity bad or good? Because if you're getting negative and people say, oh, he's terrible, he did, or they can't say you're terrible, they just say he shouldn't have did that record with him. But now when you put out a real record, they might hear you. Like, wait a minute. He's all right. That nigga's all right. Or,
right.
You know
is there a way to use it that
to
gets
me,
you?
That's how I would do it if I was an artist and approaching it. I would approach it, I don't care, shock value, and then they come and take it down or whatever. But if it gets people to actually pay attention to me for that moment, now it's my job to deliver something magical.
Right.
You know, and that's, to me, what we do in music. We had to figure out how to do it before AI, how to get that attention on you.
Right.
You know, whatever that might have been.
It's kind of hard for me to imagine traditional producers really being pushed out anytime soon. But I think as time goes by, we're going to see more and more of that. Somebody showed me a website the other day that basically just makes beats for you, and you put in different commands. And it's like, give me an example. And I said, Dirk. Type in the word Dirk, and all of a sudden the beat starts to sound a little bit more like Dirk.
It's unreal.
And I'm like, oh, this is a big problem.
I forget the name of the company I was dealing with. Is from Japan. They used to come to my studio and they was trying for me to help market them here. This has got to be 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. All the beats you could imagine.
Right.
It's like the game's over. So I would tell producers, don't, look, I know Timbaland is doing a lot of this right now and everyone's giving them flack, but this is the future. Take technology. What is technology here for? Technology is here to make your life better. That's the facts. That's what technology is to advance and help you be better at whatever part of the technology space that it is. It's going to make it simpler and easier and better for you. That's what AI has to be for us.
Right.
And that's why you see that question with the kids, what do? You just say give up and don't give them. It's got to be, because that's what makes us different than a robot.
Right. I guess that's the thing, though, is like, say you or some other producer is able to pull out of a hat a whole new style. Like very quickly, the AI is going to be able to pick up on this new style and be able to do their rendition of it. And very quickly, it's going to become, you know, competitive at the very least with whatever you just cooked up, which, I mean, that's really the big difference. The era that you came from was an era of extreme scarcity. Rap wise, there was so many hoops and things that you had to get through in order to be able to even get people to hear a record. When we hear, I was watching your old Vlad interview yesterday, and like, just
shout out Vlad.
But you at a certain point were, you know, calling into the box to request your artist songs to get played, to be heard. I mean, that seems prehistoric,
primitive
in terms of where we're at now as people. But so from that era of extreme scarcity, we now are in an era in which we are so over inundated with music.
The question is, how do you find that needle out of that haystack today? Because music is so saturated. How do you find that one? And even to me, this is the biggest challenge. We would always have a mindset on, let's say, one hit wonders, like, and why is it one hit? They don't have a clue of what got them there. They just know the record took off and boom, God touched them, said, you it for this moment. Your record goes, now what the fuck you gonna do when it's time to make the next record? You don't know, you have no infrastructure or foundational understanding of how you actually got there. And that's why we have one hit wonders. And today it's like amplified because social media, you might become that man that goes viral. Now everyone's on it and you don't know what happened. You don't know how it went viral.
Right.
And you try to repeat it and it's not working. The algorithm changed. Everything's different. And you're like, what the f-? You're like, and you're chasing something that really you have no understanding of how you got there. And that to me is the biggest problem in music right now.
Because as a person who interviews younger up and coming artists, whatever, it's like an extremely common experience to have one of them tap in, I got this song, it's got 10 million plays. Nobody knows who this person is. Like nobody is interested in any way who this person is, but they got this massive song that everybody can recognize. And that has become so much more of a real problem. But now we've kind of gotten to the point where, especially with rappers, if you want to be taken seriously, you need a convincing backstory. People want to be able to dive into the lore. And that's the thing that I guess AI is going to always struggle with, is the authenticity.
Well, to talk about AI again in another space, which is movies, and that's next. There's a program out there. I don't want to give it up yet. It's still early. And you pay a fee. Let's say it costs you less than $4,000 for the year. You'll be able to generate AI movies with real people. Like I could license. Since we said Drake, let's stay there. I could license Drake. I could go to Drake and say, I'm going to put you in this movie. It's going to be AI Drake actor. Here's the script. He reads it. He likes it, but he doesn't have to come, show up, nothing. It'll be Drake in the fucking movie. That's coming very fast.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And that's fucking nuts.
Does this demotivate you? Does it look like, oh, this is an extremely bastardized version of the craft that you initially took on and wanted to be involved with? Or does it feel like, in some sense, this is motivation? Because anytime there's a shakeup, there's new opportunities for people who are resourceful and ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. It's a challenge. It's the changing times, and It's either we evolve or we get left behind. And once you're left behind, you might as well be in a casket. That's it.
Right.
So it's about evolving every time. So, you know, when that paradigm shift hits, and we've had plenty in our history.
Yeah, even in our lives, yeah.
Right? In our lives, different paradigm shifts that took place. We still survived. This one is probably going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
You know, they're already talking about they're going to have to, so many people won't have jobs. They're going to just pay people, give money, stipends, just so they could be able to move around. But what is the government really going to do? That's when that's when it gets scary.
Yeah.
Because shit, I got to eat.
Think about how simple the version of life that our parents sold us on was. You work hard, you get a job, you make money, you're able to buy a house, etc. Imagine like raising kids and kind of teaching them that like you probably won't be able to get a job.
Yes.
There's not really that many jobs, but if you work really hard, you might be able to find yourself a craft or something that you're into that will be able to make you money in addition to this check that you get every month from the government.
You know, these Z's, let's go into the Z's and the alphas, because that's the next generations, right? I think your phone has an alpha now. That'll be the part of the alpha generation.
Oh, that's what they're calling it. Okay.
Yeah. And the Z's, they started something, in my opinion. They didn't want to work. Well, not alphas because they're too young, but the Z's, my daughter, shout out Crystal. She wanted me to shout her out. I gave her a shout out.
Hello, Crystal.
But the Z's, they don't want to work. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur now.
Right.
And that to me is the beginning of the end, because someone has to work, right? And that's the problem. And they want it, but here comes AI, and it's like everyone should be able to create a venture, an idea, something that they could generate revenue. But everyone's not an entrepreneur. That's just the facts. You know, if I meet 100 people, I'm going to tell you maybe less than 10 is going to be an entrepreneur. The rest is really workers. They want to just have a job and go home. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with earning a wage, taking care of your family or whatever you do, and go home, and you don't have to think about what entrepreneurs like yourself, myself, have to, all the things we have to do to keep this going. Like, again, to make a movie, raising money, and you don't want all of those stresses. And I get it. Some do, some don't. Most don't want that pressure. They say they do, but until it's time to do it.
It sounds great, but you and I as entrepreneurs know that there will be a moment where you're like, God damn, I wish I just got a steady check every month that I didn't have to worry about all this shit. There's a part of us that was just like, damn, I wish I could just sit back and then we're creating things. Again, I'm gonna shout out Diddy. Hopefully he gets free. I know the trial started. Maybe today we could get a verdict too.
I doubt it. They'll probably do 2 days.
Oh,
maybe.
okay.
Well, today's Tuesday. They started
Monday, I think they were deliberating yesterday as well.
It might come in today or tomorrow. Yeah. But I'm only shouting them out because there's a phrase I would say that I always kept, and that's don't stop, right? That's the money. He was talking about music and everything. I'm talking about money. I want to create that don't stop. And that comes from being an entrepreneur, creating an entity that lives without you actually having to, I want you to pay that toll. Everyone got to pay the fucking toll across the bridge, right? Think about that. I need my Easy Pass business.
Well, okay, that's interesting that you say that, because I've had this conversation with a few people in recent memory where I think everybody who does content, podcasts, YouTube videos, et cetera, they're all kind of imagine that there might be an end goal where you've created something that's so amazing that it can live beyond you.
Right.
And we've never really seen that work out. World Star Hip Hop, Q dies, kind of the air everything just comes out of it. Nobody really cares about it ever again as much.
Steve Jobs is not here.
Right. Doesn't really have the same feel. Yeah.
But it's still huge. It's $1 trillion business. I mean,
still huge. But take all the biggest platforms in rap. I think if I'm gone, this platform's kind of a shell of its former self. If Academics is gone, his platform doesn't matter as much. If Joe Budden's gone, his platform doesn't really make sense anymore.
A fact.
Vlad, I think Vlad would probably have the best chance because he's like off camera and everything. But still, like all these platforms.
But he is still the person stirring the pot.
Exactly. And he's tried having other people do the interviews for him. Doesn't really work out the same way. But
so Don't Stop is creating something outside of these things. Like there's businesses that won't need our presence to keep going.
Right.
Right now I started a basketball league. Clash Pro League in New York City, first basketball pro league in the city, paying all of these players that played in NCAA or overseas or pro, but this didn't get a chance to go and starting a league. And I'm going to take that league and keep one in New York, then go do one in Baltimore, one in Chicago, one in LA, because there's so many players that don't have a chance to play or make a wage from playing basketball. And that's what they did their whole life. And I see it so much in New York. I'm 40 years inside of street basketball in New York City, from Rucker Park to Dyckman Park and all these other parks inside of New York City, and seeing those players. And I had agency sports business where I'm managing or co-agenting NBA players and seeing the trials and tribulations of all the ones that fall off that didn't make it. I'm giving them a place that they can make it. And that type of business, like an NBA type business, could perpetuate and live without me, right? I could get a CEO that could run it. It doesn't need my existence or anything. It just needs someone that knows the basic principles of what I'm doing, and they could actually keep it going.
But is this almost kind of like an absurd thing that entrepreneurs float in their head, is to create something that lasts so long that it'll continue to have a lifespan past the point where we're able to be around to witness it and enjoy it?
Well, that's what we all strive for, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal. It's like, shit, something to pass to your kids. Your 40 and a half year old, here you go, and take it, and this is what daddy made for you. Here you go. That's really the goal for me. Like, I got a son, my daughter, the goal is to hand them off this when I'm gone and not here, and let them take it and do. You give them the goal of what your original understanding of what you want is, and then hopefully they carry that out for
But your kids are what age?
Oh man, 25 and 36.
Okay, see, that's interesting to me, because it feels like you start a business, you think in your head it's a fantasy maybe that this will be a family business, but then when it actually comes down to it, the person who's best suited to run the business quite often is not the person who inherits it.
Absolutely. That's another problem. I just lost my brothers, and
rest in peace.
That is a big deal. Like the music side, there's no one that could do what he did.
Right.
So that is a problem. Thank you for the rest of peace. He's here right now, so you could say what's up to him. He's here.
Hello, Irv. Yeah. Wait, is there anybody from your generation that built something in the music industry that really feels like, oh, this is still strong as I guess you could point to something like Def Jam, or
Def Jam probably doesn't feel as strong as
at all. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But that's like the best thing I could think of. Yeah,
even Universal probably.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
but they don't probably
become a Goliath.
They have to constantly evolve with what's going on with technology and the changing times, and that's a challenge. And the temperament of these artists. I look at Universal; they don't develop anymore, and that to me was the basis of their original version of the Universal system. Right, it was developing artists and dictating who's the star. They can't do that anymore. They sit back. All of a sudden, Adam is fucking hot. He's got 10 million views. They come and sign Adam. Make you an indecent proposal.
But so that whole concept of artist development just doesn't really exist until the artist is able to show that they have some kind of ability to capture people on their own. Yeah.
That is a very challenging. Anywhere I go to get a question, they ask me about how can we fix the industry and the game, and it really goes back to a system that most independent artists wouldn't want to deal with. It has to go back to that, but it's so saturated, there's no way to do that, in my opinion. In my opinion, there's no way to go back to the way it was and developing an artist. So you have to do that as an independent, and that takes patience and capital. Who's going to keep financing you to go through the ups and downs while you're going through those ups and downs, chasing your audience in the box? I call the phone the box. That's the box,
Could you be interested enough to find a new artist and really want to put in the years of labor of building them up? Or are you at the point where you want to do things that scale better?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know. I don't think it would have to be like such a phenomenal transitional lifetime type artist to make me want to go back in and say, man, they have to be heard. And I want to help them get there. And the reason is because in the industry, you've seen it so many time and time again. And management, let's call it, is a loveless business. If you have a manager, they run through walls for you trying to, and you don't think it's enough ever as the artist. You always think it should be more. Yeah. You get your 10 million, they want 20. Like, what the fuck? I should have got 20 million. What the fuck is 10? Right. Like, they didn't want to give you 5. Yeah. They don't understand the battle. Yeah. And they always constantly wanting more and more and more. And that part of the business, I'm not with that shit.
Well, okay. Let's say you found an artist tomorrow that you believed had like a Ja Rule style run in them. Yeah. Are you?
And he's one of those type of transitional artists, someone like that.
Right. Where you would be a fool if you saw somebody who you thought had that potential to not try and help them see it through. But if you see someone like that, like now, are you thinking, oh, we're going to go sign with Universal? Or are you thinking like, no, we could do this independently at this point? The reality
of that question or that situation is typically the artist isn't developed in that fashion. You have to have the vision for them.
Exactly.
And know where they could take it. And then that's the part that you get scared of because you want it. Do they want it? Mm. And this always gets back to that person, that artist, that athlete. It's the same thing, in my opinion. Are they willing to put in the work to achieve the goals that we see in them, that they could attain because we see the talent? We know the landscape of the business. Mm-hmm. So you're like, man, I could do this for this artist. The question is, will the artist want that same for themselves, the work that goes into attaining that? And that I see in not only in music, but in sports the same.
Right, because you're just kind of asking to be placed into a situation in which you're almost like permanently frustrated. If you take on an artist, they're in their early 20s or whatever, and then you're 40, 50 years old and you've lived for so long. It's like, this is why having kids is frustrating as well. But you've lived for so long, you've learned so much. And you want to impart these lessons to your kids so they don't have to learn them.
Did you listen to your dad?
Hell no, I did everything
there
opposite.
You go.
Yeah.
So as long as you understand that as a parent, just understand that as a parent, and just you give the best advice you can, and you actually have to sit back and let them make their mistakes. Crystal.
But like, there's an artist from Northern California, EBK J-Bo, is basically like the hottest street artist for the last year or so coming out of California. He's now facing down a 30-year sentence that he's apparently going to take.
Hopefully it's not that type of mistake.
and I mean, honestly, like riding around.
I don't wish jail on nobody, so who that is, I wish them the best. Hopefully they can get out of that situation.
But I can imagine an alternate reality in which, like, when I met him, I just so got in his corner and I was like, you know what, we're doing this together. I'm going to build your career up, etc. And then these kind of situations arrive, and it's just like that hypothetical is almost enough to scare me off and be like, you know what, I don't think that's what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, like I said, I feel the same way. I've been in that situation with plenty of different artists, and they're in jail, incarcerated for things that had nothing to do with music. And that's what I mean when I say, will they want to go through the work and deal with the low side of the business first, right? That grind. If you go to any successful artist, their best story, I promise you, is going to be the grind coming up. It's not when they're at the top.
Right.
It will not be. That's so superficial, in my opinion. Of course, we love having everything, right? But that's not satisfying as a human. What's satisfying is the challenges you face, grinding, building it up, going through the pitfalls and standing back up. You whether it's knock down 9, stand up 10, facts. That is the satisfying part of building something and overcoming something, becoming successful.
Because in the early stages, like I play Scrabble, which I realize is not terribly relatable to a lot of people out there. I play
Scrabble too.
You do?
I haven't played in a long time. I was really, really good.
I've gotten really into playing it on my phone because it's like a constant like.
Do you play Scrabble or Word with Friends?
Scrabble, because I don't like.
You like the original rules.
The Word with Friends has the bonuses in different places, and I don't like that. But okay, think about this.
We're gonna have to play.
I love that idea. Yeah. I'm gonna add you.
Yeah. I'll get it and we'll play. I'm telling you, I was really, really good in Scrabble.
Okay, think about this. When you first go, the board is empty. You look at your rack, you got your letters to choose from. It's a fairly simple decision. By the end of the game,
very complicated.
Unbelievably complicated. There's so many different things you have to consider and
blocking people, strategy. People, yes. And people say it's just a word game. Yeah. That's because you're not fucking smart.
But it's
because
like
it's really deeper. It's deeper than that if you're a real Scrabble player.
Exactly. Yeah. But okay, if you think about that, like compared to being a rapper, coming up in the early days is easy. All you got to do is make a hot song or get noticed, whatever. But like by the time you have a couple years into the game, there's so many different incentives and different things that need to be considered that your decision making becomes almost like impossibly complex.
So I'll give, since you brought it up, I have to give my boy BK his flowers because he came home from doing, I believe, 30 years. He was a genius at Scrabble. And I thought I could play Scrabble when I first meet you know, we're back in the studio, we're sitting there and we got the Scrabble board in the studio and he's like, come on, let's play. And he tells me, you know, we put up $100 and we play for $100. And he said, I'm gonna beat you with 2 letters. So I double, I said, you do that, you got double. And he's sitting there just holding 2 tiles, every play. See, this is when I learned strategy. 2 tiles every play, and he was doing like I'm getting my words put together, trying to make 7-letter words. No, he's a monster. He's really his strategy. Again, 30 years. You're gonna learn. He learned how to. That's one of the things he learned, like as a master.
Wow.
In Scrabble, and it was 2 letters at a time, and he would block the board up, and if you don't know everything, all the variations, you're stuck.
Wow.
And at that time, I didn't know all of them, and I'm sitting there. I basically got to either change letters or pass. And he's just blocking the board 2 letters at a time.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, shout out BK, man.
Shout out BK. That's crazy. Damn. Okay.
That was my first Scrabble game in the studio with someone because no one ever played in the studio, and it was BK. He just came home.
Right. Not a terribly.
I made him Irv's driver after that. He became Irv's driver.
Really?
Took care of my brother. Yeah.
Not the most popular game in the hip hop culture, unfortunately. We got to work on that.
No, I own CeeLo. That's a good game for the hip hop culture.
CeeLo's good, yeah.
So
I like
a
CeeLo.
guy named Wayne Davis and Cyril, we bought the rights to the patent. We own it. We created the tabletop, put it in a couple casinos.
For CeeLo?
For CeeLo.
I had no idea. That's insane.
That's a big fact.
Really?
I'm hoping that Jay-Z gets that casino in New York and you heard me, Hove? Hove, you heard me? I got CeeLo, boy. Let's go.
That's incredible. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been a few months, I guess, at this point. Has it been a year since Irv passed?
No, February.
Okay, February.
Just a few months.
So
February 5th.
what were this period of time where I'm assuming that you had at least some inkling that his condition was worsening in the lead up? What was that like? And what was it like when you finally realized that this person who, you know, and even I would just love to know like what role he really played in your life and to what extent you credit him for all of your accomplishments.
Irv is my little brother. I raised Irv. He's 3 years younger. There wasn't anything I wasn't part of with Irv. As most big brothers, if I play basketball, Irv played basketball. If I play football, Irv played football. If I DJ'd, Irv DJ. So that progression was everything. My only thing as a big brother, I would never let Irv know the negative things that I was doing. He didn't know how I got my Mercedes-Benz or my BMW or my motorcycle, my cable chains, and he just knew I had it. I would never want him to see that side of me because I knew if I do it, he's going to want to do it too. But Irv, as far as for me, what he did for me, his drive, his work ethic, it taught me so much. He wouldn't stop. He's relentless.
See, that's fascinating because it's your little brother. So was there like a moment that you recall in which you sort of realized that
he's him
being your little brother, that Absolutely. He had so much to teach you as well? Well,
it was, again, sometimes you don't look at it as like he's going to teach you. Sometimes you look at it like he's different. So you don't actually think you could do the things he's doing. And it was so I had just got some equipment and Irv, I'm as a DJ, and I got the turntables and everything, and I would tell him, don't get on my shit when I'm not there because I don't want niggas to rob us. We're from House, Queens. I don't want no one hearing the music and thinking they could come get something if I'm not home.
Right.
I'm walking back to the house, and I see Baby J. Shout out Baby J. That was Irv's protege, teaching him how to DJ. And I said, where you going? And he's walking down my driveway. And he's like, don't get mad, but Irv is in there with, DJing. This is the day. So I ripped the garage door open and everyone in there freeze. They like, the deer in headlights. They like, oh shit, we fucked up. I said, I told you don't get on it. I said, you good now? You good? And he said, yeah. And let me see. And there's a picture I just posted with him, like DJing, he's behind the turntables. He used to do all types of tricks. All of that.
And
is
before
true.
there was AI, that was a disruption
Yes.
in the hip hop world. Like there was a period of time where that was like a very common skill set. And those were the earliest people that got kind of replaced by technology.
So when I seen what he could do, I never DJ'd again. And I said, I made a commitment to just helping him that day. That's why it's so vivid in my mind, because that's the day I said, wow, he's different. He wants it. And, you know, we're in Holland, so we grew up with Jam Master Jay. Jay used to come and pick me up. I used to hold Jay down, God bless the dead. And I'm like 17, 18 years old. He would give me his car and leave it with me. You know the movie Juice. Juice is about a gun. That's what Juice is. It's about the gun. And in those days, everyone didn't have a gun. You know, I'm 57. I'll be 58 in a couple of days. July 4th, I'll be 57. I mean, 58, sorry. But in that era, most people in the hood didn't have a gun. And we was fighting, maybe you got a couple of dudes stabbing, but I had guns. I was one of the guys that they all came to come and get a gun if they needed it for whatever reason. So Jay used to pick me up. I used to be 18, 19 years old in clubs where you got to be 21. And he was introducing me to all these dudes and, you know, all over the city. But he was also thinking Irv is amazing. He used to take all the Irv would start making mixtapes, taking his mixtapes, and Irv would get mad because he heard some records that might sound familiar that Run DMC was doing. And he was like, man, that's my shit. I'm like, don't get mad, we could do it. If the biggest, hottest rap group in the country is fucking with your shit, this likeness, we got a chance, bro. And we just kept pushing. And Irv, I would just give him money to buy new equipment, whatever he needed. He found Mike Geronimo, and the rest is history. Really, Mike Geronimo, when you talk about that we jacked the box, that's when we was ordering the video. Yeah, that was the beginning of everything right there. And it just took off from there, never stopping.
Did you experience the kind of thing where like you guys had this really like inventive entrepreneurial streak, but then that influenced everybody around you and in your neighborhood? Like, did you just immediately see so many people trying to basically follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, for sure. In my neighborhood, I was a leader. Irv was a leader. So I always make jokes because when we was young, it was when they see Irv, that's Chris brother Irv. Then we get older and he's popping. It's, oh, that's Irv brother Chris. And that's to me like the biggest satisfaction, because it's like I did it. I got him there. Because I seen it. Irv was the goose that laid the golden egg. He had a million ideas. I had to keep every thug, street dude from across the country, from New York to LA, off of him, away from him. Irv would always hit you with the tunnel vision. He would hit you with this. He would tell me, focus. Like, stop thinking, oh, I got you. But I had to keep everyone away so he could stay focused.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you're trying to accomplish something and everyone doesn't understand that, you need focus.
So he understood the value of being very singular when it came to the music in particular?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very, very. He knew that power extremely well. He would force it on me. I would bring new artists, you know, to him, and he would look at me like, nigga, we get money with Ja Rule. Stop fucking playing. And hit me with the the blinkers.
Right.
We're gamblers. My father taught us how to gamble on horses from like 5 years old. So the blinkers on the horse, that's why they have them, so that they don't see the other horses, so they can run as fast as they can.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what he would hit us with. Irv would always remind me, don't think of nothing else, to stay on this shit right here. And
it was just obvious that it was music?
Well, at the time, it was music. Then it evolved to everything we started. Anything outside of music, if we did, let's say, the studio, it's like, let's get the studio right. You know, until we had it right, then he could take a little, you know, break, basically, because he knew it's running. It's a well-oiled machine. Then it was the clothing line. And then, I mean, all of those things.
But did he understand the value of taking a break or taking a step back? Because I do feel like a lot of people that I see being super talented, that they don't understand why maybe taking some time off to go on vacation would be a good idea.
You know, if anyone know Irv, he would wear the same clothes a lot. 3, 4, 5 days. He thought he was on the block hustling. That was the mindset, right? So if you ever seen real block niggas out there hustling, they would be in the same clothes hustling day after day after day. And you're like, yo, you didn't go home? And they like, no. they out there getting that money. Irv had that mindset, and he probably took it from his friends that was on the block, right? So he would do that, and that would, whatever motivates you, right? That was part of his motivation. So he's sitting there working same clothes day after day, just building and grinding, not thinking about time or anything. So when you ask when did he realize the value of it, we went our trial in 2005, and we go through hell. And that's when he said he took his sabbatical. He's like, he said, because the music, they wasn't coming back the way, after we went to trial, they didn't give us our deal back. It took 2 years before we got our deal back.
And at that time, were you feeling out other labels, or were you thinking about?
We were shopping around everywhere. This is when you know you're blackballed.
And there was that big of a stigma around you guys, even though you had beaten the charges.
1,000%.
You think that would still happen that way today?
First of all, there's no more joint ventures. They don't want that business. Record labels do not want to be a partner of someone that might be inside of a criminal enterprise. They don't want to deal with that. See, the universal system, they cooperated with the government against us because the government told them, if you don't, we're coming after you too. So, you know, they took their stance and they started fucking us in all types of different ways from our financial side, where they owed us money and wasn't paying us. End of the day, we got through that too. But you know, that comes from that tunnel vision and focus and the belief. And it's something, we're here for more than just jail. But fuck out of here.
You had beaten the case by 2005?
That's when we won in 2005.
I mean, the irony of that, and it took you like 5 years roughly to fight it, right?
Yeah, 3 years. 2002 is when they came in, and 2005 is when it ended. So I told the prosecutor that when you heard that, all rise, and that's when the jury was coming in with the verdict, I turned to her and said, you took fucking 3 years of my life. I get it back today.
Right.
I said it twice, and then she got all nervous and turned around.
But I mean, if I could have picked an era in the music industry to not miss out on, it might have been that era.
It's got to be.
You know, that was pretty much the golden age in a lot of ways.
In so many ways. We created so many things with if it wasn't us, the people we was affiliated with that we helped start and create. Like Jay-Z used to literally sit in my office waiting to talk to Irv. This is that era you're talking about. You know, DMX, we go to get DMX's deal, and Irv walks to the chalkboard and puts 5 with the triangle, which is 5-time platinum. And all of Def Jam's staff laughed him out the building. Irv, who's gonna fucking believe this guy that barks? And who's buying his records? Chihuahuas? This is what they're saying. And Irv, they're trying to embarrass him, and Irv's like, fuck you. We're leaving. We quit. Irv quit. DMX loved Irv through the roof because of that, because no one ever fought for him that way. But Leo, when he found out Irv literally quit and told them to fucking fuck off because of his music, oh man, DMX was through the roof, man.
I could see him appreciating that. He
never
kind of
had
energy.
that. He said, this is his words. He said, and God bless the ex, man. And he's like, I never had no one stand up for me like that or look out for me like that. And Irv did that for him. Right. It took Leo Cohen to come back to Hollis, Queens to get us to come back.
Wow. So at a certain point, how does that dynamic change where they want you back instead of you being blackballed? The stigma
how
just
does
starts
it change
to wear off?
now? Or like,
no, at that time. Like, how did it kind of slowly
Listen, they was very cocky. Those guys, they feel they're the best at what they do, and probably rightfully so at the time. They're that good. Leo was that good at what he does, and we're fresh on the scene. We don't have the historical time yet. We understood it. We still went back and talked to him and dealt with him, but then after 336, that's the time everything changed from that standpoint.
What do you mean 336?
That's Ja's album, 336.
Okay.
His second album. We come out here, get the house in the hills, and we go fucking crazy. I mean, partying, everything. That scene is I know everyone talks about it. It was crazy. Right. I mean, we had the Bloods, the Crips, the fucking Booyah Tribe. Everybody was in our house. Right. Guns was checked at the door in a basket. You put a tag on your gun so you know whose shit it is. Wow. This is how crazy we were. We was ignorant to the LA lifestyle. We partied every fucking where in all types of places we probably shouldn't have if we knew better, but we just did it. Incredible time though. Created an incredible scene, vibe, and music.
Right.
You know, and we would go out, take that scene. So LA was our Ja Rule's musical acclimate is based inside of a LA environment as well as a New York environment. So he kind of morphed it, and that became what everyone calls the Murder Inc. sound. But we make that incredible album, go back to Def Jam. We're loving the album out here, everybody. We go back to Def Jam, we have a meeting with the staff to roll it out and everything, and they laughed at us, said it was terrible.
Really?
Leo told us, we're going to give you another $200,000, go make another first single and come back and we'll figure out how to salvage this shit. And then all I did was send out a text and said, remember LA. When I sent that, that's when everyone's on the SkyTel pages. So the Murder Inc. group text, right? It was on the SkyTel pages. It just said, remember LA. My brother went crazy. Irv went fucking nuts. That, they don't know this shit. And he was right. So he went back. When we tell Leo we're not changing anything, Leo said, I'm giving you $150,000 for radio. That's it. And this is what made Irv become Irv Gotti to me. This is, again, the maceration of Irv. This is what made him take the next step, the focus, what we're talking about, and the belief in himself. And he just went out and started working with all program directors across the country. DeMizza, shout out DeMizza.
Shout out DeMizza, yeah.
DeMizza's helped incredibly with forging those relationships for Irv.
Okay, so I've been around him a little bit, but I don't really know that much about him. But
DeMizza?
He was instrumental in that era?
He's probably one of the most powerful men in music.
Wow, okay.
In that era. He's responsible for tons of artists breaking. And if they don't come back and tell him, they're fucking wrong. We give him his flowers all the time. He's doing the show now. He credits me because I reached out to him and said, come on my show. I had a show called Giving on the Business, and I did it in Vegas, and he came out. And I was talking about all his acclimates, and I'm like, what are you doing? And, you know, he went through a lot of tough times with his grandmother passing and everything. But after he got through that, after that interview, he tells everyone, I'm only doing this. Chris Gotti got me back in. And it was because his stories is bar none, and what he's accomplished, you can't take away. And he helped everybody's career. Power 106 was the place. If you didn't get and not just here, the affiliates across the West Coast. West Coast is way bigger market than the East Coast markets. So it's, from a numbers standpoint, a huge thing. And then his company that he's with was, I believe, Hot 97, and, you know, in New York, which is, again, so now he had the New York influence. He was a monster, and they always respected him and spoke to him the right way, and he had the vision, and he got it done.
It's kind of interesting how you say that the West Coast has that big of a market, because I feel like we're always on the West Coast. I'm from the East Coast, but I feel like we're always kind of having conversations about how the West Coast doesn't translate to the rest of the country at this point, and how hard it is to break West Coast artists because their identity just maybe isn't relatable in a way that doesn't seem to really impact like a Chicago rapper or a Texas rapper. You say that,
and think of the iconic artists you have. Yeah. Even from Game and the size, the magnitude of how much. Shout out Game. What up, boy? How many people was out here? But look, Kendrick Lamar just set records for the biggest concerts. Right. That's West Coast power. That is West Coast power. Come on, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. West Coast power.
But a cynically minded person would say that Kendrick having the biggest year that a rapper could potentially ever have hasn't necessarily trickled down to a lot of other West Coast artists.
Well, that could be true, but he has to wrap his arm around him. Did he do that? That's the question. Has he wrapped his arm? And then again, did they deliver the record? Right? It's always about music. He could wrap his arm around anyone. If they don't have that hit record, it means nothing. Right. So that's what it's a two-part combination. Did he wrap and embrace them and say, hey, this is the guy that I'm supporting, and trying to push his fans to go check him out? And then did that guy deliver that record? If that didn't happen, it's like an unfair assessment. Right. Because that's what it takes.
I guess he did, because on his album, he actually did like the thing that nobody ever does anymore, which is he took like 8 different underground artists from LA and put them all on his project. Like probably one of the most attention paid projects in his career for sure. Everybody was dying to know what he had to say at that moment, and he really did put on a ton of talent, which you don't really see a lot of that anymore. You'll look at the track list for an artist, like a very popular artist, and they'll have features, but almost always it's big artists that they're using to enhance their project. So you got to give it to him. But I feel like Kendrick also saw the dark side of that, because some of the artists, they're not doing so good in life. They maybe are having drug issues. They're freaking out on Instagram. And all of a sudden it's like, this is like Kendrick's doing. Like he kind of created this problem, even though in reality, all he did was give these guys a chance.
Damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Yeah.
But that example, I'm gonna give you what Leo used to tell us: protect the underbelly. So without knowing Kendrick Lamar's entire understanding of what he did he do 8 artists because he's truly trying to just empower them, or is he trying to keep? When you get bigger, you go cross over more, and you're not sitting there talking to the original people that actually got you there. And that's what I mean by protecting the underbelly. That keeps it like grounded. And without being inside his camp, I couldn't answer that. Like, but I'm sure that's part of the decision of why he put those artists on his album. No one ever did it. It's keeping that underbelly safe. Like, he's showing he's real. He's still tapped into that culture and people. It's business.
I mean, there's the cynical reading of it, and then there's the optimistic reading of it. The optimistic version is like, Kendrick just cares about the culture, and he wanted to take this moment that was huge in his career and help out all these people. And then the cynical version would be that he was paying too much attention to the comments that were saying, oh, you're having a great year, but you're not doing anything to help out California as a whole. But I mean, I feel like it also helped. It was a rallying call for all these people. Like, I mean, California got behind Kendrick in a way that was kind of stunning.
Come on, amazing what they just did.
Yeah.
That's why, he has the, he got the car now, right? I'm the captain now. Kendrick, you the captain, boy.
Has there ever been moments though where you looked at the game and you were like, you know what, rap music isn't maybe it anymore. Maybe this isn't what it used to be. Maybe I'm falling out of love with it.
No, I'm a defender and protector of the culture and hip hop, like, period. The reality is the saturation of it is the probably why you would even bring that up. But we're not going nowhere. As long as there's a struggle, it's going to exist. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm from the have-nots. As long as there's a struggle, hip-hop will live.
But do you in any way feel like you're kind of fighting against gravity in a way, because so many people get older and they no longer have the ability to appreciate
Adam,
it in the same way?
I tussle with all these executives all the time. They call me, we go to lunch and everything, and these kind of questions come up. And what I would tell you, like I tell them, why are we just not allowing hip-hop to kind of find things out for itself? Right? That's the question. All other genres of music has been able to do that without that pressure. Why are you putting that pressure on hip hop? We're no different. It's a music form. So you're going to get all types of different sounds that come out of this music form of hip hop. And you have to allow it. It may not be the best versions of things. It may not, but it doesn't matter. The core, at its core, hip hop is what? Where you from? Tell me your struggle. That's hip hop. And are you believable when you tell me it? That's what makes hip hop hip hop.
Right.
Like, people like, oh, it doesn't matter race, color, creed, it doesn't matter. You relate to that person when they hear it. Like, man, I don't know what that is, but I understand what he's saying, like, and how that must feel. That's hip hop.
You know, when I had a moment of doubt about it was when it felt like everybody was just consumed with like dance music and EDM, like 2014.
Those are waves.
There was a moment where I was like, oh, okay, like this stuff becoming bigger than hip hop. If that is where the culture's going, that's going to make me feel like a grandpa, because that's not shit that I love. So I'm going to basically be forced to like, I'm going to listen to this shit that I like. I can accept it and I can appreciate it to a certain extent, but this isn't my thing. So I'm going to have to just kind of accept that the culture has left me behind. And then, but then soon after, boom, SoundCloud rap. And then all of a sudden I'm actually in the game.
But you know, first things first, is nothing wrong with being a grandfather. That's the goal.
Yeah.
To get old and have your kids around you.
But you want to go out on your own terms.
But yes, but with that said, you can't stop people chasing money. People ask me about certain things. How could you stop this or that? And I'm like, how could you stop something that's, let's say, negative if someone's making money from it? Right? You can't change someone because they're chasing money. And that's what that EDM, I mean, I remember all my producers chasing after being the producer for these records. And then I remember all the executives blocking them from getting it. Like, this is not your culture music. This is what we do, and we have the producers here. And it's that battle, but it's all over the money, because if everyone turned to that music and now those artists or those records was generating so much money, everyone's running there. You know, it's crazy. It's, you know, when I was a kid, everyone wanted to be a doctor and lawyer. I don't see that same drive and passion no more for kids. And they only did it because that was the big paying jobs. Right? They chase the money. It's like, forget music in life. That's what everyone's doing, really. They chase the bag. Right. And that's what EDM to me represented. So they had their run. They'll still be around, but it's no one's chasing it like they did anymore. Yeah. For a minute there, you would just hear these stories about how much EDM DJs were getting paid to have residencies in Vegas and shit. God. And I would just be like, oh, like that shit is leaving this rap shit in the dust, apparently. Yeah. Maybe I got to start faking the funk and acting like I appreciate it a little bit more than I actually do. Could it be black and white? I think when you make music that is very easily digested by really people of all colors, I guess, but that, you know. No, I'm talking about the business. Oh, okay. But I'm saying that the racial component, I think, definitely has something to do with that too. Like all those DJs and they're getting all that money, 50s and 70s and $80 million for residencies. And I'm like, is that a black and white thing? I don't understand how come it couldn't have been, but they have huge records. I'm not going to deny that, but I don't know. I just felt funny, in my opinion. It was, and then when I seen the executives not allowing producers who had great records, and they're like, nah, we don't want that. Really? Yeah. Why do you think that was, though? They just saw the long term? Keeping their culture. Yeah. They're keeping their culture, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just hip hop. We was cannibalized, and we also allowed everyone in. Hip hop allowed everyone in. White, black, any race, you could be hip hop. Every country has hip hop. So it doesn't matter where you're from, you're part of the culture of hip hop. We have gay rappers. It doesn't matter. You still accepted inside of hip hop as a culture. I don't think no one ever talks about it enough, but they only talk negative about hip hop instead of the good side of it. Then you got these, let's say, the gangster rap guys that, what do they call that? The drill music and all of that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what they see. That's what they live and breathe. And they're like, oh, you can't perpetuate it. Shut the fuck up. Yes, we can. It's life. So you never felt conflicted about that? I mean, you haven't necessarily been, I'll tell you, when I responsible for putting shit out like the extreme drill shit. I blame the label. Labels should be paying for all the deaths inside of hip hop, but they don't, right? They don't take no blame. You can make a drill record, but how does the world hear it without them fucking funneling all the millions of dollars they do to make it a hit? If they had real moral and creed and they want to stand on like they do, then they would say, I'm not promoting that. But they know that the next guy over there will. So even if they hate it, they're almost forced to do it. And then they want to sit and complain about it, and that's bullshit. I call a spade a spade. Like, you can't profit from that and then don't support the negative side. See, Biggie and Tupac, let's go right to the essence of hip-hop violence. No one could tell me that wasn't, Biggie Smalls 1,000% was killed because of East-West. Right? You know, whatever you think you know, whatever, it doesn't, that's why he was murdered. Right. It wasn't because he did something, except for because he was from Brooklyn and he was part of this East Coast shit. Tupac, on the other hand, is questions.
Right.
It could be gang related from out here.
He was wrapped up doing shit he probably shouldn't have been doing.
He did some shit and there was repercussions and consequences that came from it. I understand that. I overstand that. It's acceptable in my life. And the fact that they do Italians with mob and they let them kill each other, right? As long as it stays mob, it's cool. Sammy the Bull killed all of them, he's home. You do it in the black community and you're not home. You're fucking locked up forever. Free Preem. And he didn't do that, right? You understand? That's the difference in what we deal with, and it's the same in hip hop. So when I say, if they're gonna profit all that money, why don't they donate and make a foundation for that family and the loss of that artist? Like, come on, you gotta do it. And if you're perpetuating it, don't complain about it. How do you complain about what you promoted? That shit is fucking crazy, and no one speaks about it. They control all of these voices that are on platforms, and because no one wants to get blackballed or isolated. Me, I already been blackballed.
Okay, if you sign a drill artist and his big records are some super homicidal shit, dissing a whole bunch of ops and all this kind of crazy shit, and then that guy gets shot and killed.
Yes.
You as a public figure, there's going to be a reckoning. You're going to have to, they're going to talk about this in the media. They're going to find a way to blame it on you. For me, same thing as a person who's a public figure in the culture. But we all know label dudes who are basically just behind the scenes. They're white guys.
Pushing the button to market and promote.
Do they like hip hop? I'm sure. Are they invested in it in the same way that some other people are? Probably not. But those people, their artists get killed and they don't do interviews. They don't talk about it. They stay out of all that. And they never respond when something happens to their artists.
Where's those focus groups that come out for all this shit? Why don't they focus on those CEOs and those record labels and see if they can't get them to cut checks to the families, not for the, or like to the family that lost the artist. There's no fucking way that shouldn't happen.
But is it a better world?
And here's the flip side. It's like if they say that, right? Because I just said I condone the artists making those records, right? And then it happens. So they might be saying, well, you saying they could do it, but and then when it happens, you want us to pay. And I say, but you have all control. So they have to understand what I'm saying. I want to be clear. If they do not promote it, the artist wouldn't make that record. It's the reason you don't hear good music. There's no Chuck D's no more because it became unpopular with the label, not the audience, the label supporting and pushing it. They push all types of whack records that go fucking crazy. Why wouldn't they push a positive record?
But like we were just saying, with labels these days, you kind of have to have your own momentum. They're not trying to help you create the momentum out of nothing. And a lot of times the easiest way to get some momentum going is to do some really bloodthirsty violent shit.
Adam, you're right. I'm not arguing that, but the reality is there's no momentum because they don't support those types of records. We chase the bag in all cultures. White, black, Chinese, it doesn't matter. They're chasing money. So a hip hop artist, whatever nationality, culture you from, you're chasing what you feel is popular music to make that kind of a record and fit in. And that's what they're making. So when you get in and they see that, they throw the money in. But if they made where a Chuck D and Public Enemy types of music, like think of that era, like that was so powerful and big. They didn't like the result. They just let it go. They didn't promote it no more. If they did, you can't tell me you wouldn't have 1,000 more Chuck D's trying to do it because niggas is going to chase the bag. It's that simple. They're going to run for the money, but they don't see no one making money in it. Oh, that's what's making money? Here, I'm going to give you that. It's such trendy shit. They know that. This isn't like I'm talking something they don't understand completely. So they understand they should just, again, they have to support records, but they don't take no responsibility for that.
So you think the labels consciously said, you know what, Public Enemy is doing all right, but NWA is doing even better, and it's a lot easier to sell violence and gangbanging and or not to reduce NWA to that, but you know, a lot of extremely controversial edgy
a nigga
content.
With an attitude is a nigga with an attitude.
Right. I don't want to reduce them to just like something that's a caricature.
Nothing.
But at the same time, like
iconic group.
But in comparison, selling kids on this like Black Power group,
yes,
that's only going to appeal to a smaller demographic automatically. And same thing with something like Outkast. You know, like to make a kid care about Chief Keef for sure seems easier than to make people care about Outkast.
See, I disagree. You're again, you're basically portraying a gang type culture, right?
I think I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying I think it's easier to sell.
No, you're saying it's easier to sell that, and which in turn makes me hear you saying basically to sell that is more people that's gang related or affiliated, and I'm like, no. Again, the majority of the hood you're in, again, LA is a very different type of place, but the hood, there's small pockets based compared to the whole California.
Right.
So they're not outnumbering gang members.
But for sure, you don't have to be a gang member to appreciate some content that feels very dangerous and provocative. Whereas to like really care about a character who's making great art, that's a little bit more of you have to really buy in on that person usually. Or make amazing music.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Chuck D made amazing, powerful music. It wasn't just his message, it was the music. And that's all it is. It doesn't matter again, we see it over and over with the content that's out here, with the music and everything, and all different types that win. So it cannot be just one way. And I feel if you're supporting the negative ones and it has a repercussion, like someone losing their life, I feel that the label is indebted to that family and should be putting money up.
Do you feel like, because I've seen this criticism going around of the younger generation, which is basically that there are no young superstars anymore, and that the people who feel like young superstars, somebody like a Playboy Cardi is like 30, it's like, you're not really like that young. So is it really true that this entire generation younger than him hasn't really produced superstars? And I'm sure there's other names that we could throw in there and everything, but it feels like the label's not investing is kind of having that result.
Absolutely. Because of the label's lack of participation in creating that star. That's because of the distance the artists put for themselves from the label also, right? A label wants to be in bed in partnership, and it may not be fair. Remember, but just think of from their lens, that's what they feel is fair when you talk to the execs. And then you're, as an artist, going in another direction. They don't want to support you the way they used to create that superstar, because you're going to use that power against them. And that's the reality of these are all the real challenges. That's why music is really in a bad place, because the more an artist becomes a superstar, the label feels the more heat they're gonna feel from that artist, and they don't want to deal with that heat. And it's just a bad place, and that's why to segue into the movie, that's why I went into my movie Ballin'. To me, it's a natural progression. I was just on Angie Martinez and talking to her about movies, and I was like, "What's my natural progression?" It's movies and TV from music, and I got Ballin' out right now, #1 for 3 weeks on Tubi, doing incredible. And I got a great cast with Lance Stevenson, Safari, Trey Chaney, Rebecca, and my leading lady, which is Brenda Paulino, a new face. She did incredible. And again, I'm in that movie space now. It's just, to me, to get away from some of that. And then I walk right into the movie world, and guess the first thing I'm dealing with, Tubi. People say, why'd you go to Tubi? Because it has our audience. It's the #1 place for Black music, movies and content. They have 110 million, but it's our culture. The bulk of it is our culture that's watching my movies over there.
I listened to an interview with like the CEO of Tubi, and the market or the number of people they have watching it is gigantic.
Yes, it's huge.
Yeah, and it's a very different kind of demographic as well, because when you do free, you just end up with a completely different slice of America than you might get on something like Netflix. You or I think $10 a month on Netflix, who gives a shit? But to a lot of people, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. I think they just raised it too. I think it's 15, 20. I think it's like $20 now.
And even they have the ad tier, the ad free, the ad supported tier now.
They converted to create that because they see how well Tubi is outperforming, generating a bigger profit than a Netflix. That's crazy. And Fox bought Tubi, just so you understand. Fox seen it, acquired it.
Right.
But the reality is they did it because of these Black films that started generating and doing so well. And again, I got over 3 million views in less than 3 weeks. #1 right now for Black independent films, not the Tubi original films, because they pay the money for that and they promote it. They don't promote me.
Right.
It's just living on Tubi, and I have to get people over there to go watch it. So go watch it, Tubi, Ballin'.
I got to check this. But okay, so does it feel like creating content for Tubi is the business model, or is this a way to like gain exposure and create some momentum so that you can maybe eventually do other things?
Just like I started back in music with my brother and watching the independent game. We started with a company called Blunt Records that we started. Mm-hmm. Their real name is TVT, which is Television Tunes.
Right.
So they never did hip hop. They owned all of the television cartoon music. And that's what their company was, TV Tunes. And they would license that to all the TV networks. So we went in and started a record label called Blunt Records with them as an independent. And they had a distribution and we started. But again, it's those days for me, for movies right now. I'm in that same mindset. I don't expect to walk in and have these blockbuster films in theaters everywhere. I know Hollywood never expected us to be able to make films in the first place. We used to talk about this years ago with music. They could do music, but they can't do movies. Well, we could do movies now.
See, okay, that's interesting because the same way that we're talking about how the labels don't develop artists anymore, I think there's a lot of people that look back on the 90s and 2000s and they say there were so many great urban hip hop influenced rooted movies during that time period. And obviously the movie industry has just changed in innumerable ways.
Technology's fucked everything up.
There's a lot of reasons why that doesn't really happen as much. Cause I mean, that happens for so many genres. They make Spider-Man movies.
Absolutely.
They don't want to make you
still spend that money for those.
Yeah. But I mean, is that part of it? Is just knowing that there's this audience that is perpetually kind of underserved?
No, it's, again, if you're a movie maker out here and you're doing, let's say, urban film, I don't care what you look like, and you're making urban content for Black audience, basically, for the most part, again, it's for everyone, but that's what it is, right? It's a Black film. So when you're making that, there's not a lot of places that it could live to make money or would even accept it. If I went to, and I tell you, I talked to Netflix, they love it, but they didn't take it. I went to Hulu, they love it, but they didn't take it, right? So what are you stuck with? You're only stuck with a very few places to put. And this is when I talk about a Dame Dash, right? He has America New. Vicky, she has a New Generation. These are two people that have their own, let's say, Tubies for themselves, for Black filmmakers, low budget, to could get their film on these places. P. Nice just told me he has a film. I said, get it over to New Generation and let them put it out. They'll have it up for you if you can't get on Tubi or whatever, because you go through a quality control to get on these places, and if you don't pass, they're not taking it. They used to take anything. I know guys that made movies for like less than 20 grand and made $500,000.
Right.
Or for Tubi. That to me is amazing.
Yeah, that's insane.
Right? That's an amazing flip. Like business, that's great. So I feel, I hate to put it always, but I feel they block it now. They never expected that to happen. They look at that film and they're probably like, this is terrible. How's it making money? It's for our culture. It's not really for you, buddy. That's the facts. And we have 110 people inside of Tubi that will support that film. They put my movie out without telling me.
Yeah, I saw that.
They put my movie out without telling me.
I'm sure that didn't make you happy.
How could it? If let's say Tubi's basically my partner, they're making money off of the movie.
Right.
How wouldn't you want me to promote it and market it so I could get its maximum exposure to get people to watch it?
Yeah.
That you would just throw it out.
That had to make you feel like they just don't give a shit about
Absolutely.
your content.
But I had conversations with them and they fixed it in 3 days.
Got it.
Right? And they put out the wrong version. Even worse. They switched it in 3 days. To their credit, I give them credit for that. But they are a huge part of how much money is generated. And they're a partner. You would think they should promote it as well. You're owning, you have equity stake in this. If I make $1, you're getting, if you have a movie on Tubi, the deal is 55 cents off of the dollar.
Right.
They're taking 55 cents off $1.
Which is actually the same as YouTube.
Yeah.
Although they get way better ad rates, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's what they did. And YouTube's raping and pillaging. It shouldn't be that. That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Come on, Leah. Give the people a break. Cut a fucking break for these people, man. Come on, man. You could do it. and it'll make it even bigger. I promise you.
But did it feel kind of turnkey making a movie in comparison to making music? Because I feel like there's so many intangibles with music that are hard to get right. People just have to take this artist serious. They have to care about what this artist is saying. There's so many things, and then you have to make the hit records. I guess like in a movie, in comparison, if you have a good idea and you can tell the story, it's got to feel kind of simple in comparison.
I try to dumb down everything I do. My motto in my office is on the wall is KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And what I did to do that is I look at music and movies, and I said, okay, in music it's bars, and in movies it's frames. So if I could keep my frames hot, as many frames, I'm gonna have a decent film. If I keep my bars hot, I'm gonna have a decent record, right? It all goes in. I always say, I'm not gonna do anything whack, right? No bullshit. I'm not gonna put out no bullshit. I won't do it. I have that same philosophy. So before we started, I did Zoom calls with my actors, who's pretty much all newbies, except let's say Trey Chaney. He's from The Wire, and I did Zooms with everyone for about 2 months. Getting them, going over lines, making sure it's right. Again, I'm giving you my cheat code. I know everyone's going to jack me for it, but it really made a difference as far as it took me 17 days to shoot the movie. And I could have did it shorter, but Eva had to leave to do something for Mary J. Blige, and I allowed him, and it stretched out maybe an extra 3 days for me. So I could have probably finished in 2 weeks. Okay. Every shot, everything, because my actors was ready from me prepping them prior. And had an acting coach, and we going over lines. And see, it's one thing to read, and you could read with expression. The next thing is to act, meaning I'm going to say those words and interact with Adam. I'm going to, I got to do things that makes it even more. And that's when you see it from a visual standpoint. This was a natural iteration for myself. My brother was already, he has a film called Made in America. If you know about Tales, we had that Tales TV show where he would take a record and make an hour show about the hip hop song. My favorite one is Fuck the Police. That was in our first season. It got award credits and stuff for what it was, because the topic, and we showed Fuck the Police, what it means to us in our communities, and we flipped it. So basically, the community was white and the cops was all black. And at the end of the record, I said the record, man. Look, Irv, you getting goosebumps. At the end of the show, it's a riot going on and everything, but he plays the D'Angelo record while the riots are going on, which is How Does It Feel? And he's basically a cry out to say, stop the violence. Then we put a list of all the people that was killed in the communities with gun violence by cops and stuff like that. And again, a powerful show. It's dope.
Yeah, 100%. I want to, since we only have a limited amount of time, but I wanted to go back to what it felt like to sort of see your brother's
health
deteriorating. I'm sure it was over the period of years. But what was that like?
It wasn't.
It kind of snuck up on you?
It was fast, man. It was sad because he was probably pre-diabetic for a long time. And he went to San Tropez with his family. This is how fast it happened, in my opinion. He went to San Tropez with his family, and he put on the boat shoes, the Louis Vuitton boat shoes, whatever. It cut his toe when he put it on. And his toe was bleeding the whole time he's in San Tropez, which was like 2 weeks. He comes home. We're pulling up at the house together to go see mom. And he gets out the Uber. I'm getting out of my car. He's getting out of Uber. I'm like, what you doing at Uber? Nigga, like, what are you doing? Hey, I can't drive right now. I'm like, what's wrong? He said, man, I cut my toe while I was in San Tropez. And I was like, okay. What's that smell? Because when he got the car, I'm like, God damn. He started laughing. He said, yeah, the Uber driver was complaining too. He said, my toe that I cut, it stinks. So he gets inside. He asked my sister to fix a thing to soak his foot in and clean it up for him. She's like, no problem. She said when she got to the bottom, she looks at his foot and she sees like the bone of his big toe. Like that's how deep the hole is. Oh. And she's like, Irv, this is past my like nursing job. I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. He said, what are you talking about? He said, I can see your bone like it's bad. He said, just wrap it up. Irv don't give a fuck. He said, just wrap it up. I'm fine. And she's like, you need to go to the hospital. He's fighting. She finally convinces him to get a nurse to come to the house. Nurse comes to the house. She looks at it and she says, you got to get to the hospital. You're going to lose your toe, if not your foot.
Wow.
If you're lucky. This is what the nurse says. Then it got serious. She goes to the hospital. The doctor says, we're going to have to take your toe. People didn't know he lost his big toe, his right toe first. This was the spiraling side of the decline of his health. He goes in, they take his toe. He's fine. He has a couple episodes in between. I'm giving you the fast version. He has a couple episodes in between where he wasn't feeling good, goes to the doctor. I know a doctor told him if he doesn't fix his health, he won't be here in 3 years. And I'm in the hospital with him. I'm like, boy, are you listening? Are you hearing this? Like, I'm there when he, I'm there. His family's there. His kids, everything. And goes to LA. And I would say after that day when that doctor said that, I'm going to say it's about 6 months later, 7 months later, and he has his first stroke.
Wow.
And I fly out from New York to LA, stay with him for about a month and a half with his family and kids and everybody. They're all there. And I didn't think he was going to make it. Completely honest, I didn't think he was going to get through that moment. He wasn't talking, nothing. I stayed in the hospital with him every day. I'm talking to him all night, like, yo, wake up. I know you good. I know you hear me, this and that. Da, 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 da. He comes through in about a week and something. And I'm like, you going to get out of here. You could beat this. Stay with him, do rehab with him. About a month and a half, he's on his feet. His left side was in paralysis, but by the time I leave, he could use his left arm, left leg, whole thing. And I'm like, you're going to get through this whole thing. Just got to eat right, work out, follow this, and that's it.
Yeah, not to interrupt you, but was your perception of him that he was living a relatively healthy lifestyle, or was he still diet, exercise? I mean,
Adam, I hope you're eating right. I hope everyone hear me changes his food. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's food.
Huge.
That's all it is. It's diet. He would drink the Martelli apple juice. Right? Is that it? That apple juice Martelli or something.
People
like
love that shit.
They love it.
Yeah.
Killer. Orange
tons
juice,
of sugar.
Tropicana.
Yeah, you think juice
Killer.
is fine. That's tons of sugar.
He's thinking it's fine. It's not. And he would drink so much of that shit. And then he had a trainer. He had a personal trainer and a chef. He's eating better, but he would still go out and cheat. And in the last stroke that he had, that basically took him was he was out and ate some Chinese food. And when he went in the hospital, he never came back out of that. He was basically I would call it a diabetic coma, and he never came out of that. And he was still there, would respond. You talk to him, he would do things that you told him. He would still respond, but he was not coherent.
Damn, I'm so sorry. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Did that like how did you make sense of that? Like just seeing your little brother.
I promise you, I didn't. I still haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't. People see my Instagram and see posts. I still haven't been able to form words to tell them, to say, to talk, explain. I have person Ty. She does all my posts. I would tell her I need a post for my brother, and she would get the pictures together, or I would send her some stuff. She would write it up, send it to me, and then I read it and say, okay, go ahead. But me physically, I have not done it yet. I still can't believe he's not here. I talk to him every morning. I just can't believe he's not here. Like, we had so many plans. I'm like, motherfucker, you left me with all this shit, man. Like, to do by myself. Like, how? Like, I just knew after I left him that first time, I just knew he had his personal trainer. I knew I was going to see Irv better than ever. Like, in better shape ever than before. I know we talked to his sons. They felt the same way. And he didn't do it. And he could have did it. I think he really, honestly, I think he wanted to check out.
Really?
It's only because he wanted to see my pops. He kept talking about him too much. And I would say, don't say that, bro. You're going to see him when you see him. We all miss him. You know what I'm saying? But you can't act like you want to see him today or now.
Wow.
And when I say he wanted probably to check out, it's because he still would cheat. So that's something inside of him. That's the first stroke, you know, he did that for his family, in my opinion, because he was that bad. I thought he could have checked out then if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, the mind is very powerful. If you don't want to be here and you're in that kind of condition, you won't be here. He fought through it for his kids and his family and our family, like, to do it and give it that old college try, let's say. He had lost his toe. He was probably pissed about that. But here he is. He could beat all of that shit, even with 9 toes. It's all good. You could win. You could do it. And that's the part that I didn't understand. And it's, for me, like I said, I fight it every morning. Every morning I talk to him. The other day I broke down. I couldn't, and I didn't know why. His birthday just passed, the 26th of June. And then it wasn't that day that I broke down. It was the next day. I get up, go to the bathroom in the morning, and I couldn't move. I was like stuck. And it was crazy. I never felt something like that before. But it's weird. I don't know how to better explain it when you ask that question. I'm a person that I don't hide or duck from anything. I just don't understand it, man. I don't understand as much blessed life he had, and the kids and the family is like, just control the food and you good.
Is there any part of you that, even though it was years before, that kind of blames the feds? Because I feel like that kind of case literally takes years off your life. The stress.
I hope not. I don't want to go earlier.
Right.
But the reality is, stress is probably the number one killer. I don't think people address stress enough, doctors like from that field, to address what stress really does on a body. You know, mentally, like the stress when you're stressing over anything, like I can't pay my bill. That has a health effect on you. It's like, and I don't think they kind of tell that story good enough.
Yeah, because it's harder to quantify stress.
Yes, it's hard to measure, quantify. You know? Exactly right. You can't measure it, but it's embedded inside of that equation of your health. And so when you say that, yes, we were stressed over the trial, but I don't think we could have been more relaxed and stressed at the same time. I think we handled it and dealt with it in the best way possible. I mean, at the highest level, let's say. For me personally, there was only a couple days inside of the trial that I was really like, oh shit. Other than that, it was I dealt with it. And one of the days when they asked for the description of the charges of conspiracy, which is, we're conspiring right now. Like, conspiracy is the worst.
Right.
And it's like, what the fuck? And the jurors asked to explain that. So I was like, oh shit, they're going to try and hang me up on a fucking conspiracy. Because if they go by the order of the charges. Now, mind you, we had 20 plus charges. We got them down to only 2. Right. Money laundering and conspiracy money laundering. So in order to go to the second charge, they had to give an answer for the first charge. So we had to be not guilty. So I knew I'm not guilty for that, but they're sending the note out to explain conspiracy, like they want to hang us on that. And I went crazy in the courtroom for maybe about 45 minutes. You know, my lawyer, Jerry Shargell, he got me to calm down. And I just went and talked to God for like 45 minutes. And I knew God didn't want to, that wasn't the plan for him.
When Irv passes, you know, anyone who passes, this thing happens on social media and everything where there's just a giant collective conversation, reckoning, et cetera, about them. Were you in any way tuned into any of that, or did you kind of take a step back and just not want to engage with anything going on?
My phone wasn't on. I wasn't even paying attention for about 2 weeks. You know, when I tried to reach out to everyone that wished me well and everything afterwards. If I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but I wasn't in it. You know, I know they understand. But I did try to respond to everybody. I mean, thousands of responses. It literally took me days of responding to that many people.
I can't even imagine,
The outpouring of love for my brother and myself was through the roof.
Yeah.
And I tried to respond to everybody. So it was really big, and I tried to explain this to his kids because for them it's incredibly terrible. But like I told them, I said, that's your dad, that's my brother. You know? And it's not just a regular brother. Like I literally did everything for Irv.
A lot of people have a brother or a sister that they grow up with and then they barely see him after that. And you guys were together.
And I did everything,
constantly.
Everything you could think of that might have been asked for, I did it for Irv. Like even when you talk about the trial, like when I go through that, I said, the trial's not even about me. It's not my money. It's his money. It's nothing about the trial that's about me, except for I ran the company. So I signed every check. Everything went through me, through his okay. You understand what I mean? And that's it. Everyone, I'm my brother's keeper. That's it. That's the reality. And I had no issues with that. But people never bring it up because they think I was involved with all decisions was Irv's decisions. All money was Irv's money. And if I'm not involved in that, meaning if I wasn't part of that, I don't know if Irv could win because I had retained all the information needed to give to the lawyer. See, Irv was making music. His mind isn't here. So that's when the beauty or the power of your brother or your partner that's really attentive to these things paid off. But if you go through the trial, no one could even argue the fact that you go through the trial, the whole time is about me. The questioning, the lawyer, the defense, the prosecutors, they're pressing on me of what I did, not what Irv did. But the reality is anything I did was for Irv, anything. It was, is that what you're doing, Irv? Is that what you're doing? That's what you want? You want me to do this here? And that's how when they say families can't work together, if you don't move in that capacity, there's no way we could have worked together. He would be mad. He would think something's wrong. Well, what are you doing that for? Why are you doing it? I never looked at it that way for me personally.
Right.
I made sure he was good.
Last question, possibly.
Sure.
How did that change how you want to spend the rest of your life?
Me personally?
Seeing how short this can be and how unexpectedly it could come to an end.
Well, I learned the most from my dad when he passed. He had diabetes. He beat diabetes and then ended up with cancer. He passed from pneumonia, which was created from lung cancer. So no one really dies from cancer. You die from chemo. I did so much research on this, you can't even believe. Like, you don't die from cancer. You die from everything that was done to you that treated the cancer, that killed you. There's nothing on the death certificate you're going to see that said the cause of death. If they tell you what it is, they won't say cancer. They'll tell you what happened. It's crazy. So I did all this research for this. So I learned so much in this space. So when it happened to Irv, I was very aware of things and had a lot of knowledge, and I would tell Irv. But for me personally, I'm a knock on wood. I'm just trying to live healthy as possible because quality of life is everything. So Irv's last, let's say, year and a half was bad quality of life. Once he lost his toe and his leg was swollen, and dealing with that, then stroke, and then gets back, and then another stroke. And you know what I mean? Bad quality of life. My dad, probably 2.5 years of bad quality of life. So for me, when I watch my mother's 91, Nini's holding up, you know what I'm saying? I look at that and I'm like, I don't want to have bad quality of life. If possible, if I could avoid it. So I do a lot of fasting. I do a lot of fruit. I eat a ton of fruit.
What's the longest fast you ever done?
14 days.
14, holy shit.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
And what was that like? What kind of person were you by the end of it?
I promise you, if you
still working?
If anyone that has ever fasted is spiritual, number one, and you felt the best you ever will feel.
Yeah.
And it was just a water fast for 2 weeks. I fast 3 days at a time now. Whenever I feel I cheat, eating bad or whatever, I'll go fast for 3 days. No problem, no pressure. I lost I lost my appetite. It's crazy. I don't crave food anymore. I could be around anything and I could easily not eat it. You know, your body changes, and I'm a true believer in fasting.
I did 24 hours the other day for a colonoscopy, actually, and I felt like a weird sense of clarity. Everything just felt.
Yes.
I don't know. I felt balanced and even keeled in a way that I don't normally feel. And
everyone gets afraid of it. And I'm like, just try, do a day. Intermittent fast. I do that all the time where I'll eat one meal a day.
Right.
And that's it. So that's basically my everyday, one meal a day, which is intermittent fasting technically, because you're basically 23 hours of not eating.
Yeah.
And I just live that way. I just do it. I have no more cravings. And that was the biggest thing I noticed that you know, I'm a sweet tooth guy. I crave that.
That's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a bad thing, but you know, no more craving for it.
Really?
No more craving for it. You know, you have those aromas. You know, my father was Trinidadian Filipino. My mother's black. My mother would cook all of these types of dishes, Trinidadian stuff, Filipino stuff, and the aromas, the smell. No more. It doesn't bother me no more.
Well, they say Ozempic is good for that as well.
Well, Ozempic will kill you, though. Do the research. It's bad. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. All you Ozempics because you're too lazy to lose your weight and be disciplined, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
They're going to make a ton of money with it because everyone's running to it. So Ozempic is really bad for you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm a doctor without being a doctor. I deal with a lot of holistic stuff, though.
Right.
I'm a lawyer without being a lawyer. You know, I studied all of those things, and it's because of just really the businesses and making sure I know what I'm doing, and you know, making sure we're on the right path for things. But again, before we get off, I just want to shout out my cast, my partners, Rich Black and Andy and Trotter for Ballin. Makes up Arc Films, so it's Andy, Rich, and Chris. That's Arc Films, and go watch it if you get a chance. Go watch it on Tubi. It's amazing.
Hell yeah! No, I definitely got to watch it. I was gonna check it out this weekend, but Toronto stuff was just out of control, so I didn't get a chance to. But I'm definitely gonna check that out. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Honestly,
appreciate it.
Always wanted to meet your brother, and always just was kind of fascinated by everything Murder Inc. related and everything. So it was great to get to talk to you.
I'll tell you a story off here.
Sure.
You just met Irv, though. That's what I would tell everybody, because everyone wanted to meet Irv, and my job was to keep him off of Irv.
Really?
Not now. In the heyday of building, if back then, and I'm talking about every street guy, everybody pressed you to get to Irv. It's crazy.
Hell yeah. Okay. Chris Gotti, everybody go check out Ballin on Tubi, and just follow him on social media and everything.
Chris Gotti 187, all platforms.
There it is. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time, for real. Thank you. Chris Gotti, No Jumper Coolest Podcast. Shout out my man P Nice over there.
Yeah, shout out P Nice and Pop. Come on, Big Faye.
Like, comment, subscribe.
LBC, we in the building.
Appreciate y'all.